So here's the thing about Shorvanti combat armor. All the newest, best armor went to the soldiers in the cities. That's where they were expecting the worst resistance. Proximity to military bases, larger criminal elements, generally more people, etc. That meant that the soldiers in small towns and rural areas had lighter armor, the theory being they wouldn't need it as much. Which meant I was pretty horrified when I shot one of the animal handlers point blank in the chest with Uncle Bill's shotgun, and they just doubled over coughing. That hadn't happened before. "Shit!" Uncle Bill said. That wasn't good. He always saved naughty words for when he actually needed them. "Run!" The grey dog-looking thing busted loose of his leash and bounded towards us, growling as it went. We turned to get the hell out of there and, oh shit, there were more of them. A fact I lamented miserably as one jumped and bowed me to the ground with a hit to the chest. It growled and snapped at my neck, and probably would have torn out a chunk had I not wedged my elbow in his mouth. It seemed pretty surprised as his jaw came to a stop on something hard and meaty. His teeth weren't even that sharp, it was just a lot of pressure. "Twist his head!" Uncle Bill yelled, knife drawn. "Break his neck!" I did just that, grabbing his head and using my arm in his mouth to twist. The animal yelped as his neck snapped, then went limp. I could see the handler losing their shit. The alien must have been attached to the doggo. And now I finally got a good look at the critter. It almost looked like a fox, but grey and covered in feather-shaped spines. Its head was completely unlike a fox though. How could it look like a fox with 4 eyes and a jaw that split in half? I shoved the dead animal aside and scrambled to my feet. More were coming. Uncle Bill caught one mid-lunge and threw it to the ground before stomping on his neck. I, on the other hand, had the unpleasant sensation of an alien animal's mouth closing on my hand. That was where I drew the line. I had had enough of this awful fucking day, and it was only 10 a.m. "Fuck you!" I snarled. I grasped one of the sides of his jaw and pulled. Slowly but surely, his jaw opened, and cracked as it pulled out of his joint, flopping uselessly as the wounded animal cried and whimpered. I almost felt bad. But then I saw the handler reaching for their gun. That was some bad shit. I ran and slid underneath a log as something shot over my head with a bang. The gun looked just like a shotgun I might find on Earth, albeit a super modern one. And then I saw it. Honestly, if it was accompanied by a beam of light and a heavenly choir, I wouldn't have been surprised. The hunting lodge sat there, beckoning to me. Uncle Bill must have been thinking the same thing. He smashed the butt of his gun against the window, swiping away the broken glass. Now, climbing over glass wasn't my idea of a good time, but being chased by alien dog things was even worse. I followed him in. Once my eyes adjusted, I saw that I was in a cabin. Uncle Bill was hard at work, nailing boards over the broken window. "Even if they get the boards off," he kept nailing, "they have to get through the broken glass." I nodded. Smart. At this point I realised I hadn't had anything to eat all day long. The adrenaline had kept me going all morning. There had to be a fridge here, or some kind of processed food that would still be edible when Chernobyl was safe to live again. Let's see. I glanced around the kitchen for something that looked like a pantry. There it was. I opened it up. Damn it! It wasn't a pantry, nothing of the sort. Just some really big guns. They almost looked more like lead pipes than guns. The biggest I'd ever seen. "Find anything useful?" Uncle Bill looked like he was done nailing. "Just some big-ass guns. Think they'd work?" Uncle Bill peered into the cabinet. "What the hell was this guy hunting? Elephants? Yeah, these will do nicely." He reached in and pulled out 2 of the guns and passed me one. "This here looks to be a custom one. Can't recognize it, but it takes these, looks like." Uncle Bill passed me a box labelled .700 Nitro Express. He picked up another, bigger gun, and a box of even bigger bullets. "I'm going up to the 2nd floor." Okay, it was just a loft, but there was a window up there. He took a set of earplugs and went on up. I stuck in my own earplugs and cracked open the gun. These birds were thick as my finger, and almost as long. Holy shit. I took aim out the other window. Let's see. The aliens in their black uniforms would stand out easily against the brown and green of the forest, and... oh, look! There was one of the creatures. I took aim and squeezed the trigger, and... the beast didn't really go flying like I'd expected. It kinda just exploded. Then there was the thunderous boom. Oh yeah, Uncle Bill had his own gun. Even with the earplugs in, that thing was so loud it felt like it punched me in the chest. I jumped as I heard the back door open. Big mistake. One of the damn hounds nailed me in the chest. I'd had enough at that point. I just jammed my thumb into one of his eyes. As goo and blue blood oozed out, the handler stood in the doorway, seemingly in shock. She made a sound like she was crying, a devastated well, if I ever heard one. And the wail was gone, replaced with an angry yell. She bum-rushed me, knife out. I dove for the gun. As soon as I got it, I fired again, blowing her leg off below the knee, and still her armor held, dangling by a thread. Then it hit me. Big guns are effective, but I also figured your average soldier wouldn't have guns like that. No wonder the takeover had happened overnight. You needed a fucking bear rifle to even wound them in that body armor. Speaking of, she was still screaming, but now the scream was a lot more urgent and pained, and she was on the floor. And definitely a woman. Or aliens. Maybe this was their version of a man, or some weird egg-laying third sex. I don't know. Whatever. I had more shooting to do. After reloading, I aimed out the window again. Let's see. I fired, and this time, the alien went sailing back. We sat there for God knew how long, just pot-shotting alien doggy handlers. By the time the last shot was fired, the sun hung high overhead. The spilled blood of the now dead alien was starting to smell in the hot summer sun. I put the gun down and went upstairs. Uncle Bill was still looking around. See anything? Uncle Bill jumped at the sound of my voice. Hold it! It's you. No, not much. Just a bunch of dead aliens, he smirked. And a treasure trove of alien technology. I'll run back and get the truck. You start recovering anything we can use. Sounded like a plan. On it, can I take the gun? I cocked my head to the enormous firearm I'd used downstairs. Sure. See if there's a sling in the closet. I did just that while Uncle Bill disappeared back into the woods. And that's how I spent the rest of my day, pulling equipment off of dead aliens. I got an impressive amount of helmets and communication devices, guns and other gadgets. More importantly, I saw what a Shulvanti looked like. They looked like women. Huge purple women, with black hair and tusks. Wonderful. Earth was being invaded by a race of sexy space babes. I sighed. Oh, what a world. At that moment, Uncle Bill came back with a truck. We have company, he said grimly. Aliens? I looked at the dead ones all lined behind me. Uncle Bill shook his head. More humans. No sooner had he said this than a car pulled in along the main road. The brakes whined as the car pulled to a stop. A shaven-headed man got out and helped a pregnant woman step down. I immediately felt a little guilty. This is your place, isn't it? The man shook his head. Guy I know. Fucker up and stole our truck, so we stole a car and now we're stealing his place. Though I see you've already helped yourselves. Yeah, sorry. I put the gun down. It's whatever, the man said. He stuck out a hand. Bob, or Bobby. Bobby Tiernan. And this is my wife, Meg. Short for Megan? I asked. Nah, just Meg, she said. So since we're all here, Uncle Bill said, I guess we will have to learn to live with each other. Guess so. Bobby helped me pick up the array of gadgets and haul them inside. Later in the evening, once the administrative section was set up in the town, Captain Rishi was working. Most of the work was writing out condolence letters, but she also had an expense report to write up. Those blue necks who handled the reek sure knew how to drum up expenses quick. To be fair, animal feed and training was expensive, as was therapy when a handler lost her hound. Even so, she grumbled to herself. All that trouble, and they were killed by an old man and a boy with rock throwers. Granted, really big rock throwers, but still. Still, she was overjoyed when the Omnipad blooped. That particular bloop was the call from home bloop. Captain Rishi hit the answer button fast as her muscles could fire. Gone was the tough girl Captain Rishi. In her place was Mama Rishi, ready to see the kids, damn it, and the Rishi who was still excited to be here. And there they were, her 3 kids, daughters Vyashi and Rax, and son Nisin. Only Nisin was hers, the other 2 belonged to the other wives. Speaking of, presiding over this little troop was Rishi's husband, Rashik. Praise the Empress, what a nice surprise! Rishi was immediately drowned out by the 3 kids all talking over each other. She caught little snippets. Mummy, I passed my exam. What's the planet like? Are the aliens nice? I met a male at school. Kids, Rishi laughed. One at a time. Rashik just laughed. Oh, how Rishi wished Rashik was here. He'd be whispering his little reassurances while heating up 2 mugs of Harrow Petal tea. By the Empress. Rishi needed that after the day she'd had. So, who wants to go first? I think... She made a big show of deciding who'd go first. Rax! The youngest daughter in the family spoke up. "What's that planet like, Mummy?" "Oh, Well, the locals call it Earth, and it's really pretty. There's lots of trees and plants and animals." Rishi flipped to the front camera and pointed out the window. Even in the rapidly dimming light, the tree line could still be seen. She did like the nature. "What are the people like?" Rishi's heart sank. She didn't like lying to her children, but there was no way she was telling them about the chaos and mayhem that this planet had seemed to wait for the Shorvanti to unleash. "By the void, they're so nice. They welcomed us with open arms, and they loved the celebrating party. And definitely didn't mutilate one of my girls so badly she had to have her hand amputated," Rishi didn't say. "Definitely aren't stealing weapons." It pained Rishi to keep doing this, but she shoved it down and put on a happy face for the kids. They were worried enough. They didn't need to know the reality of it all, for fuck's sake. She answered their questions best she could, and enjoyed the good news from home. Eventually, the conversation petered out, and Rishi finished with, "Can I speak to your father for a moment? I love you all so much." The kids all took that as a sign to go back to whatever they were doing before. Rashik reached off camera and pulled out a set of headphones. He slipped them on his head with a grand flourish before getting serious. They both knew the kids would be listening from around the corner. These helped. "I know you were phoning it in." Rashik didn't look happy. "I've been with you long enough to know when you're full of Turok shit." "Yeah, I know," Rishi sighed. "I just don't want the kids to worry. They're already going through enough with me gone." "Oh shit." Her voice was breaking. "Oh no, sweetie, I totally get it. I'm sure I'd be doing the same thing, but how are you really?" And just like that, the floodgates were open. Rishi talked about the locals and what had really happened, and the chaos outside of the cities, and the inquiry from General Frisch. No specifics, of course, secrets and all. "And I can't bitch about it to anyone. You know how they are about their stupid propaganda projects." "Say no more, say no more. Oh, love you to death, but I gotta go. Sounds like dinner's done." Rashik made a kissy face to the camera. "Tomorrow, same time?" "Of course." "That's my girl." And the Omnipad went black. Captain Rishi stared out the window at the place where the ship would be if she could see it. Some officers elected to bring their families with them. Others, like Rashik, were a little different. The tiny purple male had been born in space, and never set foot planetside before meeting her. The sister wives had been the same way. The decision was a no-brainer, and they were currently somewhere in the orbit of the next planet out from the sun, a dusty red world. She wanted to see them for real. Captain Rishi slumped on the table and sighed.